Howdy guys, Mayan again for the final video for the EZMU Defense Grid tournament. Once again this is Last Stand, story mode, but this time we are going to juggle the map. Everything that I said for the non-juggled version still holds here, although I will say with the exception of this platform and its semi-twin here, this map is essentially bilaterally symmetrical, and that runs on a 45-degree line straight up here through the core housing. So anything that you do on one side is going to necessarily make the aliens try to alter their path. So there are times when you'll have to build out on the other side just to make them continue taking the path you want them to. With that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. The origination of the build is going to be practically exactly the same. I'm saving this spot for a concussion tower that's going to do actually the yeoman's work of killing things in this version. As you can see, the juggle is already well underway. I'm going to be forcing the aliens around this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Unfortunately, I'm actually going to have to do quite a bit of work here at the beginning to keep the runners from taking that core, which really should not be out there. But since I screwed up in the beginning, it's going to be a mild challenge. What you saw there was me forcing them back along this path by lengthening the amount of room they would have to run to get to the core housing via the other track. And now we ought to have plenty of time to get those couple of anti-air towers in there, and the core is finally going to make it back home. I'm going to let that guy through just because I could have sent him back down the other way, and really for maximizing score that should have happened, but in this case I'm being lazy. Go ahead and get the concussion tower set up there. Really, you probably want to get that up a little earlier just because there's so much stuff in the early waves. But by and large, this is what the entirety of the remainder of this is going to look like. Is just throwing these guys back and forth and back and forth and back and forth a little more until they all die. I can see why quite a few people would call this boring, and by and large I agree with them. However, this is pretty much the ultimate scoring mechanic on open maps like this. If you don't have a fixed path that you're dealing with, this is probably what you're going to wind up doing to attain a high score. flyers on wave 10, we're going to need a couple of more anti-air towers, which we'll go ahead and build. As you can see, the advantage to this is you can have a very small and defined kill zone. You only need one command tower for the entire map, and 3 towers that are doing ground damage. You need a bit more in the way of anti-air, specifically on Last Stand, just because there are so many flyers with so much health. And now we get into the section of the map where there are a whole bunch of fast enemies, so I'm going to be doing quite a lot of this, as you'd already seen, in normal speed rather than fast forward, just because they move so quickly that otherwise I would be spending all of my time up here just building, selling, and never actually looking at what was happening. Which would be particularly boring for somebody who doesn't actually know necessarily what's going on with juggling yet, because the timing of it is actually rather important. You can let these guys run out of range to get some damage on other aliens who aren't quite as fast, but the other aliens will stay within range of your temporal tower and thus stay at a significantly slower speed, and you won't have to worry about them. In the interest of controlling this next wave, I'm going to start sending everybody else back along the left-hand path right now. This is so when the runners start coming in, they'll be going in through this side first and taking more damage from the concussion tower. I believe in the non-juggled video I had about 9,000 resources at wave 17. As you can see, I've already got 17,000 here, and we're coming up on what I believe is wave 16. Unless the flyers are considered an additional part of wave 15. So we'll go ahead and send all of our missile towers to yellow at this point. And back and forth and back and forth and back and forth we go. Once again, I'm going to send the aliens on the right side back to the left early to get the next wave into better position for the concussion tower. It's not really absolutely necessary, but it's a decent scoring mechanism, so. And it also makes things die faster, which I suppose amounts to the same thing in the end. flyers at wave 20 are more numerous, so again, even though they are a weaker type, we're going to upgrade one of our missile towers to take care of them. As you can see, it gets quite a bit more hectic as we now have 2 back-to-back waves of fast creeps entering. But as long as you start selling one of these towers when they get to about here, you're not going to be in any danger of them running past your zone and trying to proceed further down the left-hand track, which is all you're really concerned about. And we have the second to last wave of flyers coming in now. We're going to send a couple of more missile towers to red to handle them, while our pair of guns and concussion tower deals with all of the ground creeps. This one's kind of interesting. This Seeker here is actually spitting out rumblers. So you have to start paying even more attention to when you sell, because otherwise he can be up here, spit one out, and it'll get well off down your track before you can do anything about it. As you can see, the other one is spitting out crashers, which, while they have more health, are significantly less dangerous because they aren't speedy. There goes one, but he's not going to get far enough, I don't think. Nope, not quite. If they do, you can build here, 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 and here to lengthen the left-hand side track further. So it's not really a huge issue as long as you notice it in time to actually start building. Otherwise, the general rule of selling when they reach that point still applies.